I've never understood life's love for throwing curveballs, especially the kind soaked in a bizarre brand of terror only a few unlucky souls get to experience. That's my life, or at least it has been since I started working at what you could kindly refer to as a very discerning medical distribution company. Whatever that means, right? But a job's a job, and with student loans breathing down my neck like some sort of relentless monster, I wasn't about to fuss over titles. The office building was nondescript, the kind you've seen 1,000 times in a low-budget thriller, square, squat, and unsettlingly silent. They took me around the first day, brief introductions, lots of handshakes and faces I wouldn't remember. It's always cold inside, like they can't afford heat or they're storing dead bodies in the basement. Not that I'd ask, my role is strictly above ground. Thank you very much. Here's how it went. I was handed 10 rules scribbled onto a greasy diner napkin. Yeah, professionalism at its peak. Keith, the aging security guard with cheeks like drooping dough, told me these were the epitome of importance in this gig. His breath had the lingering smell of old coffee, and his sincerity threw me off more than the smell. 1. Never open the third-floor storage room, not even if you hear noises. 2. Leave Dr. Crane's office lights on, always. 3. If you hear music from the basement after 6:17 p.m., immediately call the manager. Do not investigate. 4. Never let the lobby be in complete darkness. 5. Do not touch the red phone unless it rings twice, pauses, and then rings once more. 6. No deliveries are to be signed past 5:03 p.m. 7. Do not acknowledge Dr. Petalcow if you see him outside his lab. 8. Always make sure the east wing is locked by 4:44 p.m. 9. Do not use the staff restroom opposite the 4th hallway on Thursdays. 10. If someone asks for Project Nightshade, pretend you didn't hear them. As I said, curveballs. These rules came with no explanations, no rationale, just a stern look from Keith like he'd glue the napkin to my forehead if he could. The first few weeks, everything made a weird sort of sense in a place that didn't. The staff moved like bees, focused, efficient, slightly buzzed, on caffeine, presumably. Dr. Crane's office soaked up electricity like none other, but I've never actually seen Dr. Crane. Maybe he doesn't exist, and the office lights are part of the building's quirky charm. It was at the month mark when the oddities weren't just quirks anymore. The air started tasting metallic, sharp like biting on foil. I found that disturbing, given that I mostly breathe air, not eat metal. The temperature would drop so suddenly in parts of the building, you'd think someone left a window open in the dead of winter. But there were no windows in those hallways. Late one evening, as I was locking up the east wing at exactly 4:44 p.m., I heard it, the basement music. It was a plaintive sort of melody, like an opera singer who'd lost her way and ended up in a horror film. I remembered Rule 3 clearly, but curiosity's a beast, so I tiptoed to the top of the basement steps and listened. The music stopped abruptly, replaced by a soft, wet, coughing sound, like someone was choking down there. The call to the manager resulted in stony silence on the other line before they hung up abruptly. "Keep to the rules," Keith repeated the next morning, not meeting my eyes as he shuffled past. I intended to, really, but tonight the red phone rang. Once, twice, paused, and then once more, like a secret knock at a forbidden door. My hand was shaking as I answered it. "Have you checked the third-floor storage room?" An untraceably accented voice whispered urgently before hanging up. Rule 1 stared at me from the back of my mind, looming large as I debated just leaving it alone. But whispers in horror tales are never good signs, I figured quaintly. As my shift ended and the building's shadows grew bolder, I found my feet disobeying, taking me toward the 3rd floor with a heart drumming violence against my ribs. Just outside the storage door now, the smell of ozone sharp in my nose. I can hear what can only be described as faint scratching, rhythmic and persistent. Rule 1 be damned, maybe, just maybe. I need to open that door. My hand trembles as it hovers over the doorknob, cold, metallic. For a moment, the rhythmic scratching pauses, as if aware of my proximity. I exhale sharply, fogging the small, frosted window of the storage door, obscuring whatever may lie within the shadows on the other side. The stillness is suffocating. Then, as though encouraged by my hesitation, the scratching resumes, more insistent now. The rules I'd set for myself: never open the door if you hear something from the other side, always keep the lights on, never stay after sunset, dissolve under the weight of my morbid curiosity and a rising tide of panic. What if someone is hurt, caught inside with the rats and the spider webs? My thoughts betray my better judgment. With a weak push, the door creaks open. The old hinges groan like a warning whisper from the past. Inside, darkness swallows the edges of the cramped space, making it impossible to see. I fumble along the wall, skin crawling with each brush against the cold, rough surface, until my fingers wrap around the string of the overhead bulb. A pull, a flicker, and then a dim light spills out, revealing the chaos of long-forgotten belongings. Nothing stirs. I release the breath I hadn't realized I was holding, stepping further inside. Boxes are stacked haphazardly, some with lids askew, their contents old books, broken toys, yellowing newspapers, spilling like the guts of a long-dead animal. My eyes scan the room, searching for any sign of life, any movement. But there's nothing, only the dense, musty air and the tang of rust. That's when I hear it again, the scratching, but not from within the room, it's under my feet. My gaze drops to the wooden floorboards, following the sound. A particular section by the far wall shows signs of disturbance, scratches evident on the rough wood, darker stains smeared like shadows. It's coming from beneath there, some frantic, desperate thing seeking escape. The sound is so human-like, so tormented, it pulls at something primal in me. Nudging a crowbar from amid the clutter, I approach the spot, each step punctuated by a creak of the old wood, each breath a cloud in the chill air. Placing the crowbar into the narrow gap, I heave. The board gives a little, groans a lot, but holds. I reposition, strain again, and with a loud snap, it lifts. The darkness underneath is absolute. The scratching stops abruptly, as though the silence itself is alive, watching, waiting. I shine a flashlight into the gap, the beam flickering uncertainly before revealing a small, frantic creature, a rat, its fur matted, its eyes wild. But it's not the rat that freezes the blood in my veins. It's what's beside it. A hand, small, decidedly human, pale against the dirt and debris. It's reaching up as if to grasp the light itself. The rat scampers off, but the hand remains unsettlingly still. I should call for help, I should scream, but my throat tightens, my voice a mere whisper, frayed with disbelief and rising dread. It's impossible, it has to be. But there it is, an undeniable injection of harsh reality into my trembling heart. Cautiously, barely breathing, I reach down toward the hand, the air heavy, thick with dust and a foul, sweet decay. My fingers hover just inches away before contact, a small, cold hand. Not moving. I pull gently, fearing the worst, my hand shaking uncontrollably. It's then too late, as I draw the tiny hand into the dim light, that the scratching resumes, not from beneath the floor but behind me, a frantic, maddening tempo. I spin around, flashlight cutting through darkness, catching glimpses of nothing and everything, flickers of movement, shadows twisting in the corners. And in that heartbeat of chaos, my heartbeat a crazed drum in the silence after the light bulb above bursts, plunging me back into darkness, leaving only the scratching, everywhere and nowhere at once, closing in. My back presses against the cold floor, the small cold hand still clasped in mine, the truth of its owner, unknown, unseen, but felt, deeply and horrifyingly real. As if sensing my terror, the hand tightens its grip, icy fingers squeezing in a plea or a warning I cannot discern. The scratching intensifies, a maddening symphony of nails against wood, or worse, I think, remembering the soft, wet sound that accompanied it earlier. Was it nails scraping bone? I shudder, pushing the thought away as my other hand scrabbles blindly across the floor, seeking a weapon, a light, anything. My fingers brush against something smooth, cylindrical, a flashlight discarded in earlier disarray. I seize it, thumb groping for the switch, flicking it desperately. A weak beam sputters to life, fluttering like the heart in my throat. I sweep the light around, revealing my surroundings in stuttering glimpses. The crumbling wallpaper, the heavy velvet curtains molding in their abandonment, the doll, its porcelain face split down one cheek, watching from the corner. The small hand urges me up, tugging insistently, as if understanding the flashlight's limited lifeline. We move, or rather, I am pulled forward by the insistent grip of this child, or whatever masquerades as such, leading me through the labyrinthine hallways of the old house. My light flickers over framed photographs turned askew, their glass cracked, faces watching through shattered eyes. Every step is a mental battle. Go back. The rational part of my brain screams, find a way out, escape. But the cold grip on my hand anchors me to this surreal quest. I follow because the alternative, letting go and facing the shadows alone, is unthinkable. The scratching has faded, replaced now by a low, droning whisper that seeps from the walls, unintelli. Gibble and constant. My spine prickles with every step, the murmur like a chorus of the damned, just out of comprehension's reach. The beam trembles in my grasp as the batteries begin to falter, the edges of the room dipping in and out of darkness. A staircase looms ahead, its once grand banister now broken like the spine of some great, fallen beast. The small hand halts, releasing mine to hover over the first step, hesitant. My heart stalls, chance for escape. Yet, as my gaze follows the beam upwards, the flashlight flickers, briefly illuminating a shape at the top, small and misshapen, blocking our path. The light dies as I suck in a breath, and I'm swallowed by darkness, my eyes useless in their widening. Instinctively, my hand lunges to retrieve the cold grip of my guide, but finds nothing but air. My breath hitches, panic clawing up my throat as I stand frozen, abandoned. Hello. My voice is a whisper, throat dry, a stark violation of the silence that smothers. A giggle, chillingly close, dances around me. Not the innocent laugh of a child, but something corrupted, mocking. It's followed by the faintest whisper, the voice of the unseen child, or my own delusion sprung from fear, saying, "Up." Fumbling with trembling hands, I manage to coax the flashlight back to life. Its beam, dimmer now, makes a feeble circle of light at my feet. With a deep, steadying breath that doesn't quite steady me, I ascend. Each step creaks under my weight, a groan of age and neglect, or is it a warning? At the top, the hallway stretches, a gaping maw. I can't see it, but I can feel it, the presence of something watching from the shadows, amused by my terror. The child's hand finds mine again, so suddenly that my heart lurches. The touch is no longer cold but burning, a sear of ice that somehow scorches. We move forward, past doors ajar with murmurs of past horrors whispering out, enticing me to look. I don't. I can't. The thought of what might gaze back from those darkened thresholds propels me forward, my guide's urgency a palpable force as we approach the last door, the one at the far end, framed by the dying light of my flashlight, a threshold over which no shadows dance. Stopping, the whisper returns, words finally discernible as the small hand squeezes in warning or perhaps farewell. The voice chillingly clear. Open it, see. I reach out, the doorknob icy beneath my fingertips, the slow turn a cacophony in the overwhelming silence. What lies beyond this door is unknown, obscured by years and the child's cryptic guidance. But as the door creaks open, the feeble light reveals a sight that pulls a scream from my lips, a scream drowned out only by the sudden, horrifying crash that plunges everything back into an all-consuming darkness. My breath hung frozen in the air, mingling with the darkness that now enveloped me like a shroud. The brief glimpse before the lights failed haunted me, young faces, pale and grim, their eyes hollowed by shadows, stretched in expressions of silent horror, framed by the tarnished gilt of what looked like a large painting or mirror from another time. Stumbling backwards, my hand released the doorknob as if it had scorched me. My heart thundered in my chest, a rapid drumbeat echoing into the void where light used to be. Spinning around, the darkness seemed to cling to me, thick and oppressive, yet I dared not move further into the room or back into the corridor. Each step could be a plunge into unknown perils. With trembling fingers, I fumbled in my pockets for my cell phone. The screen flickered to life, a feeble circle of light that seemed almost devoured by the engulfing black. Slowly, warily, I turned the flashlight function on and shone it hesitantly toward the room's center. The beam sliced through the darkness towards the painting or mirror. I couldn't tell which, and as it came into focus, realization dawned, chilling my spine. It was a mirror, and the children were reflections, not images. The implications of this realization spun wildly in my head. If they were reflections, where were the children themselves? And why did they look so terrified? Heart pounding, I edged closer, the light bouncing off bits and pieces of discarded furnishings covered in dust sheets. Each step closer to the mirror made the air feel colder, tighter. As my light hit the mirror fully, it revealed not just the children's petrified expressions, but also glimpses of something moving behind them, something dark and formless, shimmering through the glass like smoke underwater. I blinked, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. My breath caught in my throat, the echoes of a long-suppressed memory creeping into my consciousness, tales whispered by my grandmother of spirits that dwell in mirrors, waiting to pull the living into their wretched gloom. Wild thoughts of turning and fleeing consumed me, but an inexplicable compulsion held my feet firmly in place. My gaze fixed on one young girl in the reflectio, and whose eyes, brimming with unspoken pleas, seemed to bore into mine. Against every instinct screaming inside me to look away, to run, I found myself moving even closer, drawn by those desperate, silent cries for help. Then, as my face came within inches of the glass surface, the room behind their reflected images shifted. The dim outlines of what seemed a grotesquely elongated shadow stretched itself upwards and glided closer to the children. They flinched, their eyes widening, trapped, just as I was, by an unknowable terror. A low, guttural moan echoed in the room, or perhaps it came from behind the glass. I couldn't tell. Every hair on my body stood on end. My skin crawled as the shadow's movements became more defined, more purposeful. As the light from my phone wavered, as my hand shook uncontrollably, darker shadows within the mirror drew nearer to the children's reflections like dark ink drops in water. Sweat beaded on my brow, my breath shallow and ragged. I felt an icy chill as if cold fingers had grazed the nape of my neck. My light flickered, and in that heartbeat of darkness, I heard a whisper, impossibly close against my ear, an almost inaudible susurrus that seemed both a warning and a grief-soaked lament. "Don't look back." The whisper faded as quickly as it had come, yet its presence lingered, a haunting afterthought in the dense, suffocating air. I was frozen, caught between the nightmarish tableau in the mirror and the ominous, unseen whisperer at my back. In that moment, the room felt not just dark, but devoured by something old, something hungry. Desperation clawed at me, urging me to act, to save the children, to save myself. But as I raised my trembling hand, unsure if I was reaching to touch the mirror or to block the sight of that creeping darkness, a piercing squeal of metal rang through the house. Startled, I spun around, dropping my phone. The light died as the phone clattered to the floor, plunging me once again into an abyss, this time accompanied by the haunting echo of footsteps, creeping ever closer. And as the darkness swallowed me whole, I could only hope that in the unknown depths of it, there was still a way out. A way that didn't lead deeper into the horror that had just begun to unfold.